Recently, Channel 12 secured broadcast surveillance footage of a Phoenix woman and her partner captured mere moments before tragedy. Authorities report that he ended her life shortly after, a mere 30 minutes. That fleeting half hour was all Katherine Cervantez had remaining as the camera rolled. December 17, 2025, Phoenix, Arizona. She is seen lingering near a Nissan Altima, quietly observing her partner, Victor Giron, wildly confronting another vehicle before she retreats inside. 30 minutes pass, ending in her murder, gunned down by that very same man. The most chilling detail of this entire tragedy lies in their timeline. Their romance had existed for merely 2 weeks, 14 days. The grim reality of this narrative leaves a lingering dread. It serves as a stark reminder that dark truths inevitably surface at midnight. This is Timeless True Crime, a daily exploration delving into harrowing, factual accounts where intimate relationships descend into fatal violence. These are the forgotten narratives overlooked by the system, spotlighting individuals owed their righteous vindication. For unflinching, unvarnished realities, subscribing offers continuous revelations. Fresh investigations emerge nightly at the stroke of 12. Vigilance remains the ultimate price in the shadowy realm of timeless true crime. Katherine Cervantez was 39 years of age, a devoted mother remembered by her inner circle for her immense warmth and affection. Her absence left a profound void among her loved ones. Residing in Phoenix, she simply sought to maneuver through a complex world, quietly searching for genuine companionship and perhaps a spark of romance. Her path eventually crossed with Victor Giron, a 21-year-old man who was exactly 18 years her junior. While a generational divide might seem trivial, the severe disparity here carried a dark weight, bringing with it a hidden undercurrent of peril. Giron's youth was overshadowed by severe instability. He harbored volatile tendencies, carrying both a weapon and a dangerous temper. Their involvement sparked around late November or early December of 2025. Evidence suggests the fatal bond survived 2 to 3 weeks, measured in fleeting days. Consider the gravity of that reality. At the 2-week mark, couples typically bask in initial infatuation, memorizing simple preferences, exchanging affectionate messages, and projecting a flawless facade. Yet for Katherine and her young partner, the dynamic had already plunged into a deeply toxic abyss. During later interviews, the victim's mother revealed confessions of relentless verbal disputes. The continuous combat was enough to question her devotion, though the psychological traps of romantic entanglement often defy basic logic. Victims frequently cling to fragile illusions, silently praying that the charming persona they initially encountered might somehow magically resurface. Her mother also disclosed another chilling detail that served as a glaring omen of impending doom. The victim had confided that her boyfriend permanently stored a firearm inside his personal automobile. This weapon wasn't meant for typical self-defense. It was merely a looming companion. At the time, Katherine maintained a trusted confidant, someone deeply integrated into her life. This companion would ultimately serve as the most crucial observer to the rapidly spiraling tragedy. The psychological toll on this bystander was immense, a separate ordeal entirely. The critical factor is that this observant outsider quickly recognized the subtle, dangerous warning signs. Her gaze was sharp. Whenever the couple visited, she distinctly spotted the lethal hardware on his person. He made absolutely no effort to conceal his armed status. The dark secrets were already out. The victim had quietly disclosed that their constant bickering crossed a sinister line far beyond mere verbal sparring. Physical abuse was already part of their equation. Pause to fully comprehend the terrifying gravity of that admission. Within 2 weeks, his aggression had turned physical. Barely a fortnight had passed, and tales of brutality were already leaking out. Yet the dangerous tether between them remained unbroken. Perhaps she harbored false hope for a turnaround. Perhaps the psychological cage had already closed, or some inexplicable affection anchored her directly to the mayhem. The exact inner workings remained buried. The undeniable truth, however, is the terrifyingly rapid acceleration of his hostility. December 16, 2025. Merely 24 hours prior to the fatal encounter, the troubled pair sought overnight refuge at the trusted confidant's residence. This was the exact witness who observed the firearm and absorbed the harrowing accounts of domestic terror. Their overnight stay beneath that roof was entirely devoid of tranquility. As dawn broke on December 17th, the homeowner observed a disturbing altercation that ought to have severed the toxic bond instantly. From the yard, an intensely venomous verbal clash erupted rapidly between the ill-fated couple. Witness accounts indicate the bitter dispute centered heavily around substance abuse and narcotic consumption. Official documents omit the precise specifics of the intoxication, yet the friction ignited an explosive, spectacular confrontation. Suddenly, the entire atmosphere darkened significantly. Through the mounting chaos, the bystander caught a deeply terrifying remark regarding a potential stabbing. It remains permanently shrouded in ambiguity which of the two uttered the threat or the underlying premise. However, the horrific prospect of edged violence surfaced explicitly within a severe powder keg scenario. At that terrifying precipice, Giron delivered a chilling, definitive declaration that absolutely warranted immediate law enforcement intervention. Unmistakably, the witness heard him explicitly vow to put a bullet in his partner. It was absolutely not a mere expression of frustration or a threat of temporary departure. He promised lethal, ballistic force. The sheer psychological absurdity is staggering a guest in an outsider's residence, locked in combat with a 2-week paramour, brazenly promising absolute murder. Reaching her absolute breaking point, the terrified host demanded their immediate, forced eviction from the premises. Total banishment was her only option, forcing the venomous energy beyond her sanctuary's walls. Compliant for the moment, Katherine and her impending killer walked away. Sometime during mid-morning on December 17th, Victor Giron resurfaced. This time, he arrived solo. According to the witness, the suspect barged inside, uninvited, carrying an unmistakable aura of dread. Locking eyes, he pleaded for assistance before uttering a confession that shattered everything. He casually mentioned potentially firing a bullet into Katherine, framing it like a questionable accident. It was as though discharging a lethal weapon into a human was a hazy memory. Yet, the nightmare was just beginning. The suspect claimed his girlfriend had brandished a blade, forcing his hand. That became his narrative. He was desperately laying the groundwork for self-defense, rationalizing the fatal violence he just unleashed. The flaw is obvious. A truly terrified victim acting in pure survival mode immediately dials 911. Innocent people contact authorities, explaining their peril and outlining the fatal encounter. They beg for rescue. Giron instead chose darkness, pleading with the homeowner to extract his bleeding victim. Stepping into the daylight, the witness found a gruesome scene. Katherine lay motionless inside Victor's Honda CR-V. The young woman was completely unresponsive, bleeding out and fading fast, if she hadn't already passed. Panic setting in, the witness demanded standard protocol: dial 911, summon paramedics, and secure immediate medical assistance. She screamed for law enforcement intervention. However, the shooter adamantly refused, terrified of cops or dialing 911. Rather than seeking official aid, he instructed the traumatized homeowner to transport the victim using her Nissan Altima. His chilling plan required transferring the dying woman into the witness's car for a clandestine hospital drop-off. No cops, no paperwork, just relocate the casualty and vanish. Reluctantly, the terrified woman complied. Together, they dragged the gravely injured victim from the CR-V, loading her limp frame into the Altima. Operating in sheer terror and disbelief, the homeowner made one final, desperate plea for him to contact authorities. Her police demands were swiftly rejected. Then, revealing his cold-blooded nature, Victor aggressively demanded his firearm back. During the initial chaos, the witness had managed to confiscate the deadly weapon, hoping to defuse things. She had disarmed him to prevent further bloodshed. Yet, when he insisted on retrieving it, she flatly refused. Returning a firearm to a freshly minted killer was absolutely out of the question. The nightmare escalated when the suspect produced another pistol. Unbelievably, he carried dual firearms this entire time. Leveling the fresh barrel at the terrified witness, he mirrored the exact lethal intimidation tactic used against Katherine. Left utterly defenseless, she surrendered the original pistol. Armed with both weapons, Victor fled in his Honda CR-V. Abandoning his dying partner with a traumatized bystander, he vanished. The witness immediately dialed 911. Law enforcement and medical crews converged rapidly on the residential block near 12th Street and Mountain View Road in Phoenix. First responders located the victim inside the Altima, quickly identifying a critical gunshot wound. Medics rushed her to a trauma center, fighting desperately to stabilize her. Tragically, Katherine Cervantez was declared legally dead. A 39-year-old devoted mother had her life stolen, following a brief 2-week romance with a dangerously volatile partner. Driven by rage and dominance, Victor Giron vanished, leaving Phoenix investigators with an active murder investigation. Katherine Cervantez brutally gunned down following a mere 14-day relationship with an absolute monster. Giron successfully escaped after aiming his weapon at an innocent civilian. This wasn't a mystery. Detectives knew his identity. They had an exact description of his Honda CR-V alongside rock-solid eyewitness testimony. Catching the killer was purely a location issue, prompting investigators to immediately compile their manhunt evidence. Detectives immediately interviewed the homeowner, who survived the morning's absolute horror, extracting every gruesome detail. She recounted the tense sleepover, substance-fueled disputes, chilling backyard death threats, and Giron's ominous solo return 60 minutes later. She described his nonchalant shooting admission and the haunting sight of Katherine bleeding inside his vehicle. She exposed his repeated refusals to dial 911, alongside his sick demand to physically relocate the casualty. Then came a revelation that chilled the interrogation room. The suspect drawing a backup piece to reclaim his initial firearm. This traumatized witness had endured absolute living hell, grieving a deeply loved companion while surviving a forced body relocation operation under gunpoint had permanently scarred her psyche. Yet, she handed detectives every crucial puzzle piece. Her testimony painted a terrifyingly accurate portrait of Victor Giron. Next, authorities approached the victim's grieving mother. It is the kind of telephone call that shatters a family forever. A young woman, dead, murdered by a man she had been seeing for barely 3 weeks. Katherine's mother echoed the roommate's grim assessment. The romance was entirely toxic, defined by relentless, explosive hostility. The victim had previously warned her family about a chilling detail. Victor kept a firearm tucked inside his vehicle. Her mother sensed the looming peril. Yet, echoing the tragic reality of domestic abuse, loved ones often remain powerless when a victim is ensnared by a predator. Law enforcement secured a precise chronology and a definitive motive. Testimonies and physical proof were secured, yet the primary suspect had vanished. A frantic manhunt commenced. Authorities faced a grim reality. Victor Giron possessed 2 firearms. Having just taken a life, he displayed profound willingness to terrorize anyone in his path. The fugitive was lethal, cornered by his own actions, and fleeing rapidly. Law enforcement initiated a rapid, intensive manhunt. Digital surveillance of his mobile device yielded results. On December 18, 24 hours post-murder, a signal emerged at exactly 9:30 in the morning. The device transmitted from Gila Bend, Arizona, a remote geographic coordinate that paints a very specific, isolated picture. Situated roughly 60 minutes southwest of Phoenix, this municipality remains incredibly sparse. It offers little beyond barren wasteland, fueling outposts, and Highway 8. Yet, this desolate stretch serves as a direct pipeline toward international boundaries. The corridor leads straight into Mexico. Detectives strongly theorized the suspect was actively utilizing this precise escape trajectory. His objective was fleeing south to evade justice entirely. Surrounding regional agencies and border security forces received immediate dispatch alerts. A statewide bulletin broadcasted the threat. A 21-year-old homicide suspect, highly lethal, traveling inside a Honda CR-V. An expansive dragnet blanketed the region until federal security intercepted the vehicle. The fugitive traveled southward down State Route 85 toward Ajo, Arizona. Ajo sits deeper into the southern desert, edging intimately close to foreign territory. The trajectory obliterated any theory of him seeking local refuge. He was not hiding out. He was executing a full-blown international evasion. Crossing the international line became his final objective, though fate abruptly intervened. Approaching Ajo, near the junction of State Route 85 and Rasmussen Road, the suspect completely wrecked the Honda CR-V. Official files remain ambiguous regarding the collision's cause, whether fueled by high-speed panic, a frantic police evasion, or another chaotic factor. Ultimately, the automobile violently exited the pavement, shattering the fugitive's grand getaway amidst the barren dust. Despite a pulverized vehicle and an encroaching police perimeter, the killer's instinct pushed him toward further flight. Abandoning the wreckage, he sprinted into a vast, unforgiving wasteland, devoid of any logical sanctuary. Following a severe accident with zero concealment options, blind panic forced an entirely illogical sprint for freedom. Rational thought had vaporized. Driven purely by primal survival, he desperately fled the inevitable. apprehension, severe indictments, and permanent incarceration. Puma County Sheriff's personnel descended rapidly upon the area, easily apprehending the fleeing suspect within moments. The 21-year-old was finally detained, heavily coated in gritty desert soil and pure exhaustion. Apprehended under 24 hours post-homicide, the captive suspect maintained an icy, impenetrable silence during interrogation attempts. Demanding legal counsel, he firmly exercised constitutional protections against self-incrimination, a standard, albeit frustrating, procedural block. Yet, this profound, quiet, confirmed law enforcement's deepest suspicions. No defensive narrative would be offered. There would be zero assertions of accidental discharge, nor any twisted attempts to rationalize the bloodshed. Culpability was silently acknowledged. Subsequently, authorities transferred Victor Giron directly into the Maricopa County jail system. Formal indictments included one charge of second-degree homicide regarding Katherine Cervantez, alongside a singular aggravated assault charge involving the roommate. These extreme felony accusations guaranteed massive penal sentences. Meanwhile, investigative units meticulously scoured the initial blood-stained environment. Forensics carefully evaluated physical data within both automobiles. Technicians cataloged the Honda CR-V, the primary discovery site, and the Nissan Altima, capturing every gruesome nuance. Expended ammunition, crimson staining, and precise ballistic paths were relentlessly scrutinized to forge an absolutely bulletproof courtroom prosecution. Detectives heavily analyzed cellular footage captured a mere 30 minutes prior to the fatal encounter. Footage captured the victim near the automobile as her companion furiously targeted passing traffic. She climbed back inside, completely oblivious to her impending demise. This digital ghost became the paramount clue for mapping whereabouts. The recording preserved their final interactions, locking suspect and victim together moments before the slaughter. Deeper probes unearthed deeply disturbing behavioral traits. The suspect had rapidly produced a backup firearm during the prior roommate confrontation. This confirmed the killer actively roamed the streets, carrying two fully loaded weapons. This was not about self-defense or legal carry. He packed two firearms simply because he craved the thrill of being a constant, lethal threat. Katherine had entangled herself with a monster. He made a deadly promise in that yard. 60 minutes later, he ruthlessly executed it. Detectives dug deeper, interviewing Katherine's inner circle and Victor's acquaintances. Slowly, a chilling picture emerged. Witnesses echoed a singular, grim reality. Their romance was poisoned from day one, plagued by relentless fights. Every classic sign of domestic abuse was present, violently compressed into 14 days rather than 2 years. A narrow escape suddenly morphed into a brutal murder. Katherine never got the chance to flee, simply because Victor Giron possessed a fragile ego. He proved utterly incapable of managing friction or accepting any loss of control. As narcotics and liquor fueled that fatal morning's rapid escalation, Katherine likely fought back or voiced defiance. In response, he delivered on his sinister ultimatum. Following the fatal gunfire, he immediately shifted to concealment. He attempted to coerce her friend into a cover-up. His gaze shifted south toward Mexico. Once the smoke cleared, his only instinct was calculated self-survival. He ignored Katherine's fading life. Seeking medical aid or facing consequences never crossed his selfish mind. The physical proof was staggering, matching the undeniable eyewitness accounts. Crime lab results cemented the narrative. Victor Giron had undeniably slaughtered Katherine Cervantez. The truth was inescapable. With police work wrapped up, the grim burden of justice now rested entirely on the courtroom. Chase lightly steps into the studio right now with freshly unearthed revelations. Chase, walk us through these findings. Listen, CB, Mark. Authorities apprehended the 21-year-old perpetrator yesterday. Newly acquired legal filings indicate the pair shared a brief, volatile romance. This eerie footage captures 39-year-old Katherine Cervantez's final moments. Cameras recorded this late Wednesday, near 12th Street and Mountain View Road. Phoenix investigators point out Cervantez and her 21-year-old partner, Victor Giron, exiting their vehicle, narrowly dodging traffic. Giron proceeds to aggressively wave at the passing motorist while standing directly in the roadway. Cervantez hesitates nearby before retreating inward. Giron vanishes from frame, yet official records confirm her life soon ended. Paperwork, secured by 12 News, reveals the couple had traveled there to visit one of Cervantez's trusted confidants. This witness informed authorities that their 2-week fling was heavily marked by constant, bitter disputes. The The terrified witness informed investigators that she observed a massive altercation hours prior to that footage. During the chaos, Giron explicitly threatened murder. She ordered the volatile pair away. They complied, but roughly 60 minutes passed before Giron returned solo. He trespassed inside, frantically begging for assistance, murmuring that he might have fatally wounded Cervantez. Rushing outdoors, the confidant discovered Cervantez slumped in an entirely different automobile than before. Realizing her friend was unconscious, she demanded 911. Giron refused, instead dragging the lifeless woman into her vehicle. As the homeowner threatened to summon law enforcement, Giron leveled his pistol at her chest and fled. Dispatchers received the frantic call. Paramedics rushed Cervantez to the trauma center, but doctors could only declare her deceased. Law enforcement nabbed Giron the following afternoon. Filings show he was intercepted driving south, bound for Ajo, Arizona. Upon facing flashing lights, he abandoned his vehicle and sprinted. Officers quickly tackled him to the dirt. 24 hours post-capture, Victor Giron stood inside a quiet courtroom. State attorneys unveiled a brutal indictment: second-degree murder paired with aggravated assault. Prosecutors painted a picture of slaughter, a firearm leveled at a witness, and a desperate dash south. Eyewitnesses stood firm. Though defense counsel claimed innocence, the presiding magistrate refused to gamble with public safety. Bail landed at $1 million in cold cash. Victor's fleeting freedom had officially evaporated. He would rot inside Maricopa County Jail as the slow wheels of justice turned, awaiting his fate. 2 weeks. That was the entire window Katherine Cervantez had between an innocent introduction and a violent grave. 14 days packed with blinding warning signs. A terrified confidant noticed the weapon, absorbed the venom, and watched brutality unfold. Even her mother recognized the endless hostility. Yet, intimate partner abuse rarely offers a convenient rescue window. Occasionally, the powder keg detonates long before loved ones can orchestrate a save. Katherine was merely 39 years old, a devoted mother, remembered by confidants as a soul whose absence would echo. That silence now rings deafeningly clear. Her offspring are left navigating life adrift. A grieving mother buries her child, while a fractured inner circle mourns. This tragedy stems from a 21-year-old's inability to rein in his wrath, envy, and predatory urge for absolute control. Notice the dark trajectory. Relentless disputes plagued their bond immediately. Katherine confided in allies about violent physical clashes and the firearm he obsessively kept close. Substance abuse poured gasoline on the fire, culminating in a sinister verbal warning of gunfire mere hours before he ultimately pulled the trigger. Classic warning signs materialized, rapidly condensed into a 14-day window. It proves just how swiftly psychological terror breeds fatal violence. Affection mutated into a death sentence overnight. Once Victor engaged that weapon, executing Katherine and witnessing her lifeless drop, he never once bothered dialing for rescue. Sparing her life never crossed his dark mind. He focused entirely on his own evasion of justice. He orchestrated a scheme to coerce an eyewitness into concealing the corpse, plotting weapon retrieval and his getaway. Despite standing over his grim handiwork, his absolute priority remained self-preservation. Meanwhile, the terrified bystander witnessing this slaughter, staring down the barrel of a pistol and forced to handle Katherine's bleeding form, absorbed psychological scars that time will simply never erase. Her bravery held firm. Reaching out to 911, she laid out the grim truth to investigators, dismantling any fabricated alibi of self-defense Victor might attempt. Yet, executing that honorable deed permanently stripped away her fundamental mental tranquility and shattered her personal security. A companion was ripped away, replaced by perpetual terror. Consider the digital surveillance footage recovered from the scene. Recorded 30 minutes prior to her demise, the tape captures Katherine leaning against a Nissan Altima, projecting a serene, almost resigned patience. Nearby, Victor paces the asphalt in a blind rage, wildly threatening a passing vehicle. The stark contrast in their underlying demeanors is deeply unsettling. Exhaustion radiates from Katherine. She appears numb to his volcanic outbursts, mentally withdrawn from the chaos, yet paralyzed on how to break free. Conversely, Victor acts like a live wire, vibrating with hostile volatility. This singular dynamic perfectly summarized their lethal entanglement. She desperately managed the damage. He stood primed for total destruction. Exactly 30 minutes later, her life was extinguished. A broader dialogue surrounding generational divides within romantic pairings is necessary, particularly when an adolescent mentality clashes with a partner nearing 40 years of age. Generational divides aren't inherently toxic, but stark contrasts in psychological maturity carry undeniably heavy consequences. Real-world mileage matters. Introducing a 21-year-old into the orbit of someone 18 years his senior, while injecting relentless mayhem and brutality, forges a fundamentally warped power struggle. Victor was never an equal partner. He remained an erratic adolescent, armed with firearms and deep-seated fury. Ultimately, Katherine financed that fatal attraction with her own existence. Yet, one crucial fact demands strict recognition. Victim blaming holds zero merit here. She never willingly signed up to be brutally slaughtered. Inviting bloodshed was never her intention. She merely navigated existence, seeking genuine connection and harboring quiet hopes that this youth might offer basic human decency. Utter guilt rests entirely upon the shoulders of Victor Giron. Every step was calculated. He opted for brutality, he elected to pack artillery, he decided to inflict terror, and he deliberately squeezed that firing pin. Intimate partner brutality rarely announces itself with blaring warning sirens. It frequently masks its venom beneath charisma, hollow regrets, and vows of reform. Occasionally, the tension spikes so rapidly that recognizing the lethal peril means your exit routes are already sealed. Katherine's grim fate serves as a chilling testament. Psychological torment infiltrates any demographic or romance, capable of mutating into a homicide within a mere fraction of a second. Should these dark parallels closely mirror your own current domestic reality? If your companion engages in relentless psychological warfare or resorts to violent physical domination, who wields intimidation, packs weaponry, and strips away your security, seek immediate intervention. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline without delay. Confide in an ally. Formulate an escape strategy. Sever ties before the window forcefully shuts. The razor-thin line separating survival from the morgue often hinges on a single explosive dispute, a fleeting second of fury, or one wrath-fueled maneuver. Katherine Cervantez was owed fundamental human dignity. She merited a deeply respectful union, meant to witness her offspring reach mature adulthood, aging gracefully, sharing joy among peers, and embracing a thoroughly complete existence were her absolute rights. Rather, she endured 14 agonizing days alongside a predator, viewing her merely as an object to manipulate, damage, and ultimately throw away. This execution transcends mere sorrow. It highlights a catastrophic systemic breakdown. Institutional safeguards consistently miss early predatory red flags, while societal norms quietly tolerate romanticized brutality behind closed doors. The community surrounding Victor Giron collapsed entirely, noticing his deep psychological rot, yet failing to step in before lethal weaponry met an exposed target. Today, Victor occupies a concrete enclosure, confronting the severe legal fallout of his own bloodlust. Yet, punitive measures cannot magically resurrect Katherine. Prison sentences never erase an eyewitness's profound psychological terror, nor can they stitch together a matriarch's shattered heart or comfort orphaned offspring. Courtroom convictions enforce the law, but they cannot rewrite reality. Katherine remains a permanent ghost. What underlying truth emerges from such a bleak, irrational, and preventable tragedy? Society must keep its eyes wide open. When targets of violence speak out, society must listen. Toxic volatility cannot be dismissed as a simple personality quirk. Menacing declarations cannot be brushed aside as mere angry outbursts. Firearms held by those with a history of rage demand absolute intervention. Communities must offer safe harbors for escaping lethal dynamics, free from stigma. Vigilance over inner circles remains paramount. Uncomfortable inquiries must be made. Relying on the intervention of strangers is a fatal mistake, as the clock often runs out. Katherine Cervantez held profound worth. Her tragedy echoes, those 14 days endured with Victor Giron, stand as a chilling testament to how rapidly affection morphs into brutality. Security shatters instantly. Identifying psychological red flags before the final hour is crucial. May Katherine finally find quiet. She was owed a far better destiny than the nightmare she received. Her narrative echoes onward, potentially pulling another unsuspecting soul from the abyss. This closes the Katherine Cervantez file. Slaughtered after 14 days of courtship, erased prematurely, forever remembered. This is 12 a.m. The 14-day warning, a lesson written in shadow. 14 days. In the blink of an eye, a new beginning can morph into a final chapter. We often view the first 2 weeks of a romance as a season of infatuation, a time for whispered secrets and shared dreams. But the tragic story of Katherine Cervantez serves as a haunting reminder that a spark can sometimes be the fuse to a catastrophic explosion. Violence doesn't always wait for years to reveal its face. When aggression is compressed into a mere fortnight, it isn't passion, it is a predator claiming territory. A firearm kept in a car, a temper fueled by toxicity, and the cold air of intimidation are not personality quirks. They are sirens screaming for you to run. Katherine was a mother, a daughter, and a light whose absence is now a deafening silence for the children left behind. Her story teaches us that your intuition is your most sacred shield. If the person who claims to love you makes you feel small, unsafe, or hunted, trust your gut over your heart. Don't wait for the right time to leave, because in the realm of volatile control, the clock moves faster than you think. Choose your peace over a person. Choose your life over a lie, because some midnights never see the dawn.